Donald Trump manned the fryer and the drive-thru at a Pennsylvania McDonald's, proving that even a New York billionaire looks and feels more comfortable among the people than middle-class Kamala.
Proud of them. Look how happy everybody is. They're happy because they want hope. They need hope. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to give much more than hope.
What does working the fryer tell you about the people of Pennsylvania?
Make it fact.
Mr. President, you actually have worked at McDonald's now versus...
Now I have worked at McDonald's. I've now worked for 15 minutes more than Kamala.
Are you going to put this on your
I
resume?
never worked here.
A man of the people, genuinely, no fake accent required. But as for Kamala...
So look, if Jimmy Carter can vote early, you can too. My pastor who is here, Reverend Dr. Amos C. Brown of Third Baptist Church in San Francisco, I thank you. And of course, Usher.
Yes, Usher did make an appearance at her rally in Georgia wearing what appears to be a robe.
I love you more, but I love Kamala Harris even more. I want her to be our next president of the United States.
But even in his bathroom best, he was no match for Lizzo, who with one line pretty much warned us what would happen if Kamala were to win in a couple of weeks.
They say if Kamala wins, then this whole country will be like Detroit. Well, I say proud like Detroit. I say resilient like Detroit. This is the same Detroit that innovated the auto industry and the music industry. So put some respect on Detroit's name.
And I'm not so sure we want to Detroit our entire America, but with these buffoons campaigning for Kamala, well, the Trump team would be wise to just sit back and watch. It's like a science experiment, maybe a social experiment gone wrong. And while we're on that particular theme, I want to bring in a man, yes, a man who knows a thing or two about experiments because he spent the last 5 months pretending to be trans to prove how ridiculous the whole concept is. Take a look.
It's day 6 of being a girl, and I am loving it. Everyone's so nice to me. Everyone's been so nice to me in public. Not online. Everyone's really mean. But in public, I feel like customer service is so much better now that I'm a woman. Hey guys, I just wanted to hop on here. This was actually going to be my very first post after announcing my transition, but I did think it'd be good to start off by making demands. But now that some time has passed, I wanted to ask if you guys could respectfully call me Jay, and please not call me by my dead name. Hey everyone! As you can see, I'm going to the pool. I'm going to a public pool today for the first time as a woman. Normally I go to a private pool, but my therapist wants me to do some exposure therapy where I do things that make me uncomfortable. So he suggested I go to a public pool as Jay.
Well, Jay, or Josh Seiter, joins me right now. Okay, Josh, so you shocked the world. You especially shocked social media last week when you came out and said, hey, listen, this has all been kind of an experiment. I wanted to show how ridiculous it is to just up and decide one day that you're going to change genders and all of a sudden everybody has to respect that about you. But you got to take me through this because, I mean, it really was quite the experiment.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show people that at the end of the day, no matter how much we dress up, how much lipstick and makeup we put on, anyone claiming to be a trans woman is just a man in woman face. And so I thought it would be powerful for me to dress up that way for 5 to 6 months and then take it all off at the end so that people visually can see, wow, it's just a man under the clothes and the makeup. He's not a woman. He didn't magically become a woman, and all trans women claiming to be real women are lying.
So you got to take me back to 5 months ago when you kind of started this experiment. I mean, did you commit fully to this, or was this more of like a social media thing, and then you were Josh around your friends and your family, or like how much did you commit to your new persona? Because, you know, you really fooled a lot of people, including liberals that are very, very angry with you right now.
Yeah, so I was all in from the very beginning. Around very, very close family members. I mean, I was Josh, but anytime I went out in public, anytime I did anything that would involve people seeing me or public spaces, I was always dressed up as this person because I wanted it to be, it's like a method actor. I wanted to be fully immersed in it, and I didn't want to ruin it or risk it not going right because somebody noticed me or saw that I was dressed up as a man. So I really took on this character for 5.5 months and was fully involved in being that person.
So obviously, we can see the public commentary and how that public commentary shifted in the last several days due to your admission that this was all, an experiment of sorts. But initially, when you said, hey, listen, I've decided I'm a woman, identify me as Jay. This is what I am now. Everyone must respect me. I demand that everybody, just identify me the way that I identify myself. What did some of the leftists, maybe more in the extreme, I call them the Rainbow Mafia LGBTQ community, particularly online, how did they respond to your announcement?
So some of them were supportive, which I would say is, delusional because I'm a man claiming I'm a woman. And there was people, clapping and saying, this is amazing. You're such a strong woman. You're valid, Josh. I respect your journey. And then there was others that were being highly critical, which was odd, mostly making comments about my appearance. And, for people that are supposed to be loving and tolerant and accepting, I noticed that there was a lot of hate and kind of shallow judging of what I looked like. And so they're getting very angry that I still had hair on my chest and that I wouldn't always be clean shaven on my face, as if I took a razor to my face, then magically I'm a woman. So it was kind of split. It was people supporting this bizarre thing where I'm saying I'm a woman, and then other people in the woke mob saying that I wasn't woman enough until I shaved my face.
Yeah, interesting. They're supposed to accept everybody. And you know what? I've seen plenty of trans influencers that have facial hair. So, I don't know how critical they are or what their metric is for how woman someone can be. I mean, the whole thing, as you have rightly pointed out, is an experiment of sorts. But, you came out last week, I believe it was, and you said, listen, this is an experiment. This is what I did. I wanted to prove how ridiculous this was. And then really all hell broke loose because the folks that were supporting you on your said journey, they turned on you. They were really mad. They really think that you're cosplaying as a trans person. It's a cultural appropriation of sorts, I believe, has been some of the criticism. But what has it been like in your comment section from these folks? Are they pretty pissed off at you? Do they forgive you at all? Or what has that reaction been, and has it been divided?
Yeah, the reaction's been very divided. People that are self-identifying as conservatives or Trump supporters are saying, thank you for everything you've done to defend women. And thank you for what you did to show what a farce this is. So I'm getting a lot of support from them. And then on the left, ironically, I'm getting a lot of people saying, how dare you fake this? And I say, well, I'm just faking being a woman. Like any trans woman, they're faking it. They're not real women. So I think they're mad that I'm pretending to be a pretender and that I'm faking being a faker. But at the end of the day, we're all just dudes faking being women. So how can they be mad at me? And how can they appropriate womanhood for themselves when they're trans women? And that's okay. But if I appropriate trans for myself, that's not okay. So there's so many layers of hypocrisy in this. It's mind numbing, and watching the mental gymnastics they have to go through has been hilarious.
Yeah, it really is interesting to me that they feel that they can police how someone identifies or if someone changes their mind. I mean, I thought that the whole premise of their argument was that you can be anything that you want to be. Literally, you can just decide. And while I'm not for, having people take hormones or change body parts, I think that that's incredibly damaging, especially as it relates to minors. They seemingly believe that you can just be whatever and you don't even necessarily have to undergo anything that is medical or procedural to do such. And so I think you're again showing the weakness in their argument for all of that. But I think a big part of this as well, as you mentioned, just cosplaying as a woman or kind of taking over what it means to be a woman. And it, in my estimation, at least for some of these people that do this, it is not only for fame and attention, but it's for some kind of self-indulgence. And And I would think Dylan Mulvaney is a perfect example of that. Somebody that wanted to be in the spotlight, somebody that wanted to be an actor or a performer and found a way to do that. And that's through what Dylan Mulvaney does all across social media, but lauded really as a hero in the LGBT community. And I'm sure you drew some inspiration from the Dylan Mulvaney journey. But, how do you think that that's going to shape up as this thing progresses in the next several years? Do you think it's going to get better, or do you think it's going to get worse in terms of individuals with their self-identification fantasies?
I like the way you phrased that and formulated it. That's a great question. I think it's just going to get worse because, like a hit of crack, as soon as you dress up this way and cosplay being a woman, you go from being a straight cis man to suddenly belonging to 5 victim classes. Now you're a woman, now you're queer, now you're part of the trans community. And so they get this high because now they belong to this community and they're victims and everyone praises them. And so we're incentivizing people to do this. And it gives, I think, a lot of people like Dylan Mulvaney who don't have a sense of purpose in life, it gives them something to get behind, and it gives them, a sense of meaning and being. And so I think that it is like a drug, and I think people get addicted to it. And I think as long as the media and politicians encourage it, more people are going to keep putting on woman face, more people are going to keep grifting. And I think it's only going to get worse unless there's pushback. And I hope that we get that pushback soon.
The main thing to me, relatively speaking, it's harmless to dress up like a woman. Like, if you want to dress up, I don't really even have anything against drag performers who want to perform in front of adults. Like, if that's what you enjoy, whatever, not necessarily harming anybody. But this really evolves and changes, especially in the last several years, with men who say that they're women, wanting to be in women's spaces, in women's locker rooms, in women's restrooms, and in women's sports. This is a controversy that's been evolving. It's been getting worse, though. At first it was kind of just Leah Thomas, and there was a big controversy about that. But now you're seeing more and more trans women infiltrate women's sports. There's kind of a viral situation right now with San Jose State University and a volleyball player who, several schools are boycotting and forfeiting games and saying, we're not going to play. And it's for not only because we want to protect the integrity of women's sports, but it's for safety reasons. And I'm sure, Josh, you've seen some of the videos of this player who, not only a fantastic volleyball player, but quite aggressive and, maybe has some biological advantages that might harm women. Do you think, at least in that space of protecting women's sports, we might see a move in a positive direction?
Well, I sure hope so, because as you pointed out, it's one thing if you want to have, certain fetishes or sexual fantasies, whether it's autogynephilia, dressing up as a woman, as a man, or whatever. Nobody has a problem with, if you're a grown adult, with what you do in the privacy of your own home. But then once you start, invading female spaces, then there's a problem. And with this particular sports player on San Jose, she's also living with a female teammate who is the co-captain. And that teammate has now joined a lawsuit against her because, newsflash, she doesn't want to live with a man. And I think most sensible people understand that. And so I think this really has reached an inflection point where people are saying, wait, hold on. Now we're getting to the point of the absurd. Why are biological men able to play in women's sports, take scholarships away from women, erase women's records? It's not okay. It's morally repugnant. And I really hope that there's a pushback against that kind of thing.
Well, there has to be, because if this continues, women's sports will cease to exist. Now, you've got a few that are doing it right now, and they are taking spaces and spots and accolades away from women. But if this continues and people are applauded, especially by the ESPNs of the world, for their bravery when they compete against women, it's just going to get more numerous. And I believe it's selfish. Listen, if you want to be trans, you want to identify, whatever. But when you're actively hurting women, I don't think that there can be space for this in America. And I'm also wondering, Josh, if you think that our presidential candidates should be asked explicitly if they believe that men should be participating in women's sports. We know Donald Trump has been very frank and honest about his position. Are you surprised that Kamala has not been asked this specific question?
No, I'm not surprised. And she's actually on tape preening and bragging about the fact that she paved the way as Attorney General of California for convicted triple murderers male inmates to get free gender transition surgeries that taxpayers are footing the bill for. And she brags about this. She's very happy about it and proud of it. And so I think if she were asked, if she were to give an honest answer, which you never know with Kamala Harris, if she's going to give an honest answer, she would probably say, yes, of course. Oh, I'm all for trans-identified males playing in women's sports. But she hasn't been asked that by the media because they will ask her nothing that they think will reflect poorly on her. And so I hope they're asked. I think this is one of the main issues that should be talked about because women are slowly being erased. And who would have thought that the left and the woke mob would be the ones that would be erasing women? If you told someone 20 years ago that they would be the ones erasing all the progress the feminist movement made, I think people's jaws would hit the floor, and yet we're witnessing it in real time before us. So
What's so interesting to me as well, and obviously you experienced this when you did your experiment, but white men right now, I mean, it's open season on white men. White men, they don't have any seat at the oppression table. They don't get to claim anything. But if you just claim you're trans, then you're right. All of a sudden, you get some kind of a special perk and a special privilege. So it's interesting to me, and I comment this all the time when various social media outlets or TMZ, People Magazine, whatever, when they laud the trans community, if somebody in the trans community has taken a spot from women, as we saw in the Victoria's Secret fashion show, I always just comment, long live the patriarchy, because quite honestly, that's what they're doing, and that's what they're advancing. And this is going to be a major issue. And it's not just the men and women's sports, but we know that Governor Tim Walz, Kamala's running mate, he's been very vocal about wanting to make sure there are, gay porn books and children's libraries. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, as somebody that kind of actively participated in this social experiment, do you think that the women out there who might otherwise vote for Kamala because of the abortion issue, but they're also wives and mothers, do you think that, some of these social issues could sway an election if it were discussed more and if Kamala was actually nailed to the wall on her actual positions?
Yeah, I think Kamala's interests when joining the trans movement are in diametric opposition to women's rights for reasons we have already talked about. So I think if this issue were discussed more, there would be a lot more women that would say, hey, I don't want to vote for somebody that's okay with keeping the patriarchy going and who is spreading male hegemony into female spaces. And I think already that's happening, even though Kamala's not directly being asked that by the media. I get messages all the time saying I'm voting for Trump because I know he's going to protect women from biological males. So this is already an issue that's on a lot of women's minds. And I hope it is something that's directly talked about by both candidates.
They need to be asked as well what their position is. I think we know Tim Walz is, but Kamala needs to be asked her position on minors and gender affirming care in the states like Minnesota, who are trans refuge states that really eliminate parents and can actually cause a wedge in families over this gender affirmation. And what it really is mutilation of minors. And I don't know how anyone could stand for it, but it's something that needs to be discussed because it's becoming more prevalent. And Kamala's been able to really skirt around those issues that are really, really on the top of mind for a lot of parents that have young children that are in school that have to learn 20 different pronoun affiliations instead of actually learning what they should be learning in their schools. But, to that point, and just on the election, as a whole, I know that you're active in following this and the political landscape. I'm wondering how you're feeling about what's going to happen in a couple of weeks and how you think this is going to shake out. Do you have any predictions? And what have you noticed, especially in terms of social media trending, because you've been a part of it yourself?
Well, I think there is a silent majority in America for sure. I think we're seeing, what we've seen in the 80s and in the 60s, where there's this silent majority that has been too afraid to speak. And, cancel culture and ultra wokeness is responsible for a lot of that. People are afraid of losing their jobs, their friends, their peer groups. And so they're not speaking up. But what they are going to do is they're going to go to the polls and they're going to vote. And so I am hopeful that the silent majority will come out and that the numbers we're seeing in these polls are not very accurate because people are self-censoring and are scared to be honest about voting for Trump. And I think you're going to see common sense people that think like me and you coming out and saying, you know what, I don't want to bill for a guy to get gender transition surgery in prison. I don't want my daughter's scholarship to get ripped away by a man. I don't want my daughter playing in a sport where there's men competing against her. And so I think all of these things are considerations that are on a lot of people's minds, even if they're scared to talk about it. And I think we're going to see them voting this election. And so I think it is highly probable that Trump will get elected, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, we know also that this is going to be a gender gap election. Women are trending towards Kamala. Surprisingly, though, not as much as they did for Joe Biden, which is weird. But we know that Donald Trump is doing far better with men. Kamala's hemorrhaging male voters. She's really trying to get the black male voters. She put something out last week offering legalized weed because apparently that's what she thinks that black male voters care most about. Also in race-based handouts for entrepreneurship, which is unconstitutionally illegal. But there's also been this push to win over men. And Kamala is now saturating social media with some different ad choices, one of them being like, hey, listen, if you don't get out and vote, assumingly for Kamala, then you might have trouble getting a date. I want to play this and see how effective you think it is.
It's a really nice place. Have you been here before?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite spots. I bring everybody here.
I said I go on a lot of dates, but
Hello, ladies. I'm Trey. It's good to be here.
What do you do and how much do you make?
I work in finance, making six figures.
How tall are you?
6'5".
Do you have a plan to vote in November?
Nah, not my thing.
All right, so that ad was about as corny as Kamala, so I'm not surprised that her team would put this out thinking it was going to do the trick. But the Kamala ads are really everywhere. She has a lot of social media marketing. Do you think this is going to convince men to get out and vote for Kamala? They couldn't get a date otherwise, Josh. That's what they're trying to put forth there.
Yeah, they're basically saying if you want to get laid, vote for Kamala. Look, there's a lot more pressing issues that are facing all Americans here in this country. We have an open border crisis. People can't afford groceries. Inflation's out of control. Men have to be worried about their daughters being forced to live and play sports with biological males. And all Kamala can think about is, oh, well, guys want to get laid. She really does cater to the lowest common denominator and the basest instincts of people. And I think this ad demonstrates that. I think most people's minds are on issues that she and Biden have failed to address and have only exacerbated over the last 3.5 years. And I think that's what people are going to be voting on this election, not how to get a date.
I don't think people have the luxury right now of voting based on, identity politics or voting for the first female president. I think maybe at one point in time that was more attractive because people felt like that would make them feel better about themselves and what they've done in terms of activism. But when you can't afford things, it's really hard to vote based on what's going to make you feel nice. I think that this election, like you said before, is going to be much more based on common sense and the reality that people are experiencing, and no amount of ads are going to do the trick. They're really hoping that that's going to be the case, though. And, I really think that they're going to struggle with authenticity. And I think that's what's going to come down to. And at the top of the show, I played Donald Trump at the McDonald's. And I kind of want to get your take on that because, you're somebody that knows viral moments quite well. I think to me that was endearing. I think that's Donald Trump in his element. He seemed to be actually enjoying himself. And when I look at that, as much as everything is doom and gloom right now, I look at that and I'm like, this man is at least himself. Do you think that those kind of things are going to help Donald Trump with maybe the people that have just been trained to hate him for his personality?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump is very relatable. He's just a man of the people. And unlike Kamala, he actually went to McDonald's and worked there for part of a day. And he just comes off as a much more genuine person, not just Kamala, utilizing fake accents and appropriating things for herself. But Walz also is completely out of touch. He comes off completely out of touch. He's a habitual liar and he's disingenuous. Trump is just Trump. Love him or hate him. And I think with the McDonald's thing, you saw that. It's just Trump cooking up fries, chatting with people. Kamala could never do that. And I just saw a segment on Fox today where Trump's going around to barbershops, talking to people about things that matter, talking to Black voters and Latino voters about how their electric bills have gone up 800% and how they can't afford rent and they can't afford groceries. Those are the issues that matter. And I think that's why Trump has an edge in this election, because he comes off as very relatable. He talks about issues people care about, and he's not out of touch like Kamala and Waltz.
He's relatable because he's still himself and he goes to these places, but he doesn't pretend to be these people. It's like he doesn't need to go to a black barbershop and pretend that he is a black man. He doesn't need to go to McDonald's and pretend that he is a fast food worker. He's just going to be Donald Trump doing whatever it is he's doing and talking to people from a really authentic place. And that's what we love about him. He doesn't try to be other things. He doesn't wear costumes, or he doesn't change his voice or his accent. And Kamala's been doing it right, left, and center. She thinks it's going to work for her, but I think she's got another thing coming. Josh, now that the experiment is over, what is next for you? Where are we going to see you, and what are you going to dedicate your time to in this next endeavor?
Well, I'd love to just continue the conversation. When I started the experiment is because I wanted to get people talking about an issue that's important and that affects so many of us, everyone really. And so I want to continue that conversation now. I have a law degree. My undergrad degree was in sociology and political science. I then went on to get a law degree. And so I'd like to keep up the dialectic and keep talking to people about issues that affect all of us, issues that matter. We need to have a conversation. We need to bring back civic debate in this country and open dialogue. And I think it's important that we all understand that despite what the left tells us in the woke mob, it's okay to disagree, and it's okay to have conversations about topics. And so I really want to just keep doing that and go on as many shows and podcasts as possible and either agree with people or debate with people. I don't care, but I just want to talk about the issues that matter to us.
Now, I think the burning question everybody has for you, Josh, is did you keep the clothes? Do you have a section of the closet where you kept those very nice outfits? The swimming suit tube top might have been my favorite, but did you keep them?
So it's funny you asked that. I actually packed them all up yesterday in a big garbage bag, and I'm gonna go donate them this week to Salvation Army that's near me. So
that's fantastic, so that actual women can use those clothes. They're very nice options out there. So listen, you're doing good work and you're spreading the love and you're spreading the resources. Thank you for, dedicating 5 months of your life to doing this. That can't be an easy task to do. And so I appreciate you putting those videos out there and being so honest about your journey, because it's a learning journey for all of us. And thanks for joining me today. Best of luck on whatever you do next, and we'll be watching. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, folks, the Democrats know Kamala herself is not a remotely good enough reason to vote for Kamala, so they're trying out a new gaslight, pretending Donald Trump is mentally failing. Oh, it's time for final thoughts. So once someone, likely a green-haired Gen Z staffer, decides on a narrative, the whole Democrat Party has to bark it out in unison because, as we know, Democrats tend to share a singular brainwave. They did it with the label of mega extremist, and they did it with their threat to democracy ploy. They did it with their weird talking point, and of course, Project 2025. Well, none of it worked, so they decided to whip out a new battle cry that Donald Trump is too old and unstable to be president. That's their flavor of the week, and they're really hoping this one sticks. Instead of taking the last 2 weeks before the election to advocate for the policy positions, Kamala's team plugs into her prompter. She's going all in on this route.
I think this is an easy life I have, right? I go from here, I say, am I finished?
Being president of the United States is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world, and so we really do need to ask if he's exhausted being on the campaign trail. Is he fit to do the job?
These folks think because they pushed Joe Biden out at the last minute due to cognitive failure that was no longer avoidable, they can do the same to Trump. But there's a couple of snags in that ill-conceived plan because the current president is still in office and is quite obviously out to lunch. And also, Donald Trump has done more, seen more, and certainly been through more in the last 6 months alone than these people could manage in a lifetime. Let's not forget, he spent half of his campaign in a courtroom thanks to politically motivated witch hunts. That didn't get him down. Oh, and then he was friggin' shot in the head in an assassination attempt. That didn't slow him down either. He kept on and he kept on and he had to keep on even when the Democrats swapped out a whole candidate and switched his opponent months before Election Day. Oh, and then someone tried to assassinate him yet again. On top of all that, he's done rallies, interviews, town halls, debates, podcasts, UFC fights, college football games, NFL games, and headlined the Al Smith dinner Kamala could only send in a video to. Call Donald Trump a lot of things, whatever. But to say that that man is weak is not only a lie, but it's a damn lie. And this gaslight by the Kamala campaign shows the desperation and panic within. If this is all you got, that Trump is old, well, good luck. America has never seen a more resilient or a sturdy leader able to withstand and weather so much. Those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow live at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's Liberal Tuesday. Also, catch full episodes of this show on Fox Nation whenever you want. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.